am entirely nude, but you would know. You know why? INCOGNI. They deleted that information, you perverts. Hey there, nerds. I'm your mutant, Dr. Jordan Breeding, and you're watching Your Brain on Crack, the only show where my superpower is sometimes I talk to you for 10, 15 minutes straight about movies, while in other shows, I talk to you for like an hour straight about a series of movies, or sometimes me and a couple of friends all have to talk about one movie for an hour. And clearly pacing is a tricky thing, which is why today I'm gonna save you from... Movies are all about tension and set pieces and cramming a whole lot of exploding gas tanks into just a couple precious hours. Sure, sometimes you get a movie about two people talking over dinner or just some dude hanging out over a weekend and crying and then walking down a road, but mostly, Hollywood is terrified of letting things settle down for even a second, lest you immediately get bored and switch over to 30-second puppy dance videos, which is why characters are always scrambling and rushing to do stuff that, when you think about it, they could have totally stretched out over days or weeks or years, leaving us to wonder... The fun thing about time travel is you can wait as long as you want before going on your trip. You'll arrive at a fixed time regardless. The summer of '69 ain't going anywhere, Brian Adams. This makes a lot of the urgency in time travel movies pretty suspect. Look at Avengers Endgame. The gang plan their big adventure during one hectic sleepover and are suited and ready to go like the next afternoon. And I get that the sooner they bring back all the vanished souls, the better, but you'd think they'd put a few more days into prep than, say, I put into editing this internet video for the internet. But why not wait till, I don't know, the borderline omnipotent Captain Marvel is finished helping space refugees and applying hair gel or mousse or like whatever girls put it in their hair.
I know, it's crazy.
Marvel could probably hold all the stones and bend and snap even better than Hulk could. And speaking of the stones, or D's stones, during the big battle, a bunch of characters take time out from fighting for a stone side mission after Hulk reminds everybody,
we need to get them back where they came from.
And he is right. They gotta take those stones back to their own timelines. But they don't have to take them back now. They could wait a couple of days. We know they could because that's exactly what Steve ends up doing. And other than him getting Joe Bidenized in the process, everything is completely fine.
I was gonna foot him foot to foot.
During the battle, all they really need to do is follow Steve's suggestion, which is to...
Get those stones as far away as possible!
Tony, fly them to Afghanistan. Thor, summon the Bifrost and take them to another realm. Wong, take them to the mirror dimension. Hulk, cover them in peanut butter and hide them in your intestines. Take them anywhere but to the time machine because that's right next to Thanos. Taking them there ends up putting them right in this big purple... They rush returning the stones for no reason, causing Thanos to nearly destroy the entire universe, which, as my grandma says, would really suck ass. But to be fair, it's a mistake that makes sense to the characters at the time, and we end up seeing the consequences, so that's not bad screenwriting. Except for when we look closer, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Captain Marvel each tried to take the stones to the machine, but none of them were around during the time heist pajama party, so none have the faintest clue where the stones are even supposed to go. Steve has to return the stones to like 4 different planets, which he can do because he was a part of the planning committee, but what would friggin' Peter Parker do if he reaches the time machine exactly? I mean, like, what's his plan? Cover them in peanut butter and eat them to poop them out later? I just feel like that could work. Nobody tried it. Don't knock it.
I had to an old lady with a stick to get these cranberries.
But regardless, he doesn't even have one of those wrist thingies that lets him choose a destination. And actually, what would any character do if they reach the time machine? Every trip through time requires one of those red vials of Pym particle Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah!
Hank Pym will cook some refills if you give him a few days, but for now, nobody's got the 4 or 5 vials they need. And this isn't some obscure piece of nerd knowledge that I'm pulling out of my peanut butter soaked ass. This is a major plot point in the movie. It's why they had to take that giant detour to 1970 an hour ago.
These are Pym particles, all right? And ever since Hank Pym got snapped out of existence, this is it. This is what we have. We're not making any more.
Are they just gonna chuck the stones into the time tunnel and then chill outside of it? They'll probably lose them forever that way, and the only guy who can retrieve them will be the one who has suddenly mastered time travel.
John C.
So this wasn't actually just some weird decision that made sense to the characters but backfired. It was a decision that made no sense in any character's heads, but still actually worked, give or take the death of the series' best character. I guess it's like Doctor Strange said, there's only one future where we win, and it's the one where we pull in everything everywhere all at once and do something so stupid and random and cram so many things up our butt, it just somehow works out. And hey, that movie was great, so... Speaking of every Marvel superhero being infinitely dumb as a stone, in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Bad fan service, Wanda really wants some kids. Already a bad idea. Just kidding. Daughters, I love you.
Yep.
But anyway, Wanda decides the best way to do this would be to kill herself in an alternate universe after first killing someone to get the power to go to that universe, which also requires killing a whole bunch of people in both universes. Wow, that's a lot of murder just to ruin your finances.
Yep.
Instead of that, has Wanda ever considered pregnancy? It takes a bit longer than multiverse kidnapping and mass murder, but some people consider it a rewarding experience. And I know that sounds like a callous suggestion. You're thinking, if I lost my kids, I'd want them back. Having no kids doesn't fix that issue, even though in real life that would be your only solution. But see, Wanda never actually had kids. She had a boyfriend and lost him, but I guess he was like a 3-incher or something because she's not looking for him in the multiverse. But she never had kids. She just imagined kids into life in a fantasy that she made. And it's not just that she created them with magic.
That's what every mother does.
It's that they only existed as manifestations of her imagination, and as soon as she dropped the fantasy, like 2 days later, they disappeared. So these kids that she wants to grab now, they're not her kids, and they're not even alternate universe versions of children that she really had. They're just kids that she's been dreaming about.
Have you ever had a dream that you had?
And, I mean, a lot of people dream about kids, but if we want to turn those dreams into reality, we make kids using our bodies. And it's,
That's what every mother does.
you know, it's pretty fun.
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!
But okay, maybe she can't get pregnant or doesn't want to. That's fine. So how about she consider adopting? Some people don't want to adopt because they insist that their child be biologically a part of them and they want to raise them from birth like a little puppy. But Wanda apparently cares about neither of those things. And maybe some adoption supervisor person wouldn't think she's a prime candidate thanks to her criminal past, but her world is having a bit of a refugee crisis now post-blip, so they might cut her some slack and she might do a lot of good that way. Actually, I'm probably overcomplicating it because I bet she could have just asked to use America's powers to travel to a multiverse where, say, everything was identical, fake children and all, except that the version of her in that universe was hit by a bus.
All this for a child you met.
There are an infinite number of multiverses, guys, including one where your life not only goes exactly how you always wanted it to, but where your alt you has a stroke at a perfect time for current you to just slide into place without a hitch. Just inherit the life you've always wanted. No mess! Couldn't hurt to at least ask if that was a possibility before attempting to massacre a bunch of magical cow people and shitty bit cameos. So those are options, but I think she'd rather get pregnant simply because in her Westview fantasy, she did imagine herself pregnant and then imagine briefly raising babies and then briefly raising toddlers before the kids suddenly become as old as these ones that she now plans to steal. So why in real life does she want to deny herself those parts of motherhood? Maybe she's not looking forward to finding a new dude to bone? No problem, in vitro's a thing now. The father won't be Vision unless she bangs the milk one or she's gotten some nanosperm hidden away somewhere, but those alt-universe kids also don't have Vision as their dad, because that's a universe where Vision never existed. Hey, quick question. Does Wanda not know how most people become mothers? We know she and Vision were getting it on all across Europe, but he was probably using his robo-penis with phasers presumably set to stunningly sperm-free orgasms, so they never had to talk family planning.
How did this happen?
Her parents died when she was a kid, and she grew up on old sitcoms where moms become pregnant but spouses sleep in separate beds, and in her WandaVision fantasy, she never actually gets pregnant, she just suddenly is pregnant.
Oh, it's such a strange sensation.
Maybe the Book of Ashanti they're all looking for that would presumably stop her rampage? Well, it's actually a sex education textbook.
What's fucking madness?
Has anyone had to talk with her about the birds and the...
John C.
In the movie Old, there's this beach that makes you old.
There's something wrong with this.
1 hour on the beach and you age around 2 years. And you know what? I'm not even gonna try to pick that apart. It's a magic beach. Are you wondering how much food these swiftly aging kids have to eat to get taller? They brought a picnic basket. Don't worry about it. It's a magic beach. Getting out your graph paper to try to figure out beard growth or periods or density? Screw you, it's a magic beach.
Let's just all start slowing down.
Breaking down the mechanics of what's going on instead of just accepting the story on its own terms means that you're clearly missing the point of this fable, which is old bad, old sad.
You have wrinkles.
Oh no. Except at the end of the movie, M. Night Shyamalan adds in a twist, which was not in the source material, to make it all sciencey. A pharmaceutical company is actually sending people to the beach as unwitting test subject. Each beachgoer is sick, and the company has slipped them experimental drugs for their illness. To bring it all home, someone is watching them from across the bay using binoculars to see how long they manage to continue to frolic. I get it. If you can get a lifetime of test data in just one day, that's totally worth killing a few mixed accented families by aging them super fast. But this setup doesn't really give the doctors any data at all when you really think about it. Here's what a success story looks like to the scientists.
She didn't have a seizure for 8 hours and 17 minutes. 16 and a half years. We cured her of her epilepsy.
Wow, that sounds great. But then a bunch of these people also didn't sleep for 8 hours and 17 minutes. Does that mean you also cured sleepiness? Or does it just mean sometimes brain stuff works different because it's a magic beach? Anyway, at least 16 years without seizures is way better than the prognosis for real-life epileptics, which is most people with epilepsy, after the first drug they try, never experience it again. Huh.
Wow.
And that's actually the best example they have for us. Check out the other diseases they're studying using the speedy power of quicksand. They're checking one guy for schizophrenia. Symptoms of schizophrenia include delusions, auditory hallucinations, disrupted speech, and flattened emotions. To detect those, you have to talk to the patient. You can't just stare at them from hundreds of yards away. Are you just gonna wait for him to go nuts and stab everybody? A schizophrenic is probably never going to do that, and even if they do, they could go through years of severe symptoms first, so the number of stab-free hours won't tell you anything. Also, who's to say a person might not just lose their mind in a schizophrenic-looking way when they realize, oh shit, this beach is making us old. It's a magic beach. And they're also testing a woman with a disease that makes her bones brittle. How are you gonna test bone density through binoculars? Are you just hoping she'll trip and break all her arms and legs? Here too, someone could suffer the full force of the disease for years without that happening. And when this woman actually does trip and go all bendy-limbed, guess what? She's in a goddamn cave where nobody can see her. Oh, and one patient has hemophilia. That's the disease where blood doesn't clot well, so every time you get cut, you're afraid you're gonna bleed to death. I guess you're just waiting for this guy to nick himself against a rock and bleed out. Well, bad news. He's on a magic beach where skin heals instantly, so blood doesn't even need to clot. He does die, but only because someone stabs him so hard that he died no matter what kind of clotting or skin healing he has.
I feel better.
And the stabber is the schizophrenic because, yeah, he does go nuts and stab people after all. But if you were anticipating him doing that, maybe you should have kept him away from the other test subjects because he just cut a whole lot of trials short.
Magic Beach.
I'm sorry, you're right. It's just that I realized after more than 3 seasons of me being a real doctor, I finally got to analyze a movie using actual medicine. Even though, I just changed my shtick to me being a superhero, which didn't really effectively change anything. Hey, speaking of evil scientists stealing your information so they can lure you to a beach and pump you full of experimental drugs and let you die, let's talk about INCOGNI. Shh. Specifically, how INCOGNI tries to make that not happen. Now, what's great about INCOGNI is that after even just a couple of weeks of being signed up, my spam email has been dramatically reduced. I am no longer receiving newsletters and random advertisements from companies I don't give a crap about. And even better, INCOGNI has removed me from some of those weird websites where people could find information about my family or where I live. And even best, I know that if one of those data brokers gets hacked, I'm not gonna end up with an unexplained yacht purchase on my credit card. I signed up for the wait list for the recently rebooted Movie Pass, and I don't know if you know this, but their whole business model is built around collecting your data so they can partner with theaters and restaurants to feed you ads based on how most dudes who watch Marvel love to eat Burger King or whatever I after. But even still, I can't stay away. I'm addicted to the movies. And they're gonna sell my information to make it work, and they'll probably get hacked by terrorists, but it's fine, because I've got INCOGNI. And thanks to their partnership with us, now you can live dangerously too. The first 100 people to use code CRACKED, the link below, will get 20% off INCOGNI. Protect your privacy today. Go to incogni.com/cracked and use code CRACKED to take your personal data off the market. Again, that's incogni.com/cracked and use code CRACKED to protect yourself from ever being sent to a death beach. When I watch Avengers movies, or basically any blockbuster, I always end up screaming at the screens, I could call in the military! One missile strike from miles away, this whole problem vanishes! And I am now realizing that might be why I am banned from the Alamo Drafthouse. That's what she said. But it was all worth it, because in the last James Bond film, the sons of bitches, they did it. They actually did it. You're welcome, Earth.
Cece, I forget things when I get nervous.
They bomb the villain's island, just like to pieces, just pow, pow, pow. And why? Well, because the villain, he's making super viruses there, and super viruses, they're bad. The only catch is the place has anti-missile walls, you know, however. Such a stupid thing to have. I'm looking at you, drywall. What's the best at stopping missiles? It needs to be so good at stopping missiles and no mold. So Bond, has to open those. He actually has to open them a second time after they suddenly close, once the missiles are already en route, because if the first missiles fail, well, they're screwed, right? I can't just try later. Except what exactly is the ticking time bomb scenario here, which justifies all the tension and Bond putting himself in more danger and all the Batman music? Does the villain have a giant virus machine with a timer counting down, which he'll use to disperse the virus throughout the world? He could. This guy's literally a Bond villain.
Now we are both poisoned with
John C.
We'd be fine with that, but no, here's what's actually about to happen. His crew are about to, load crates of the virus on like a rowboat. That's not a deadline. That's just one insignificant step in this genocidal plan. The bad kind of genocide. You gonna wind up with ships loaded with crates? Well, then don't bomb the island that's protected by anti-missile shields. Bomb the loaded ships. Now, would that destroy the viruses so thoroughly there's no risk of the stuff getting out and killing all of humanity? In real life? Probably. In the movie, definitely, because this isn't a normal virus at all. It's a special nanotech virus that can't transmit through the air or through water or through droplets, but only by direct human-to-human contact. The writers could have made it to be an unstoppable virus, but no, these are the rules they wrote in, because themes. What if more ships come? Well, you could bomb those too. Pow! Just keep on bombing at leisure. Anything that enters or leaves. Pow! You've got the military. You can keep this up forever. Pow! Mr. Bohemian Robot Rhapsody doesn't have any hostages you care about anymore, and he doesn't even have enough food to survive more than a few days of siege. You've got it. Got this. But here's the thing. My calls for the military are not actually me suggesting that'd make a better movie. I actually have a lot of conflicted opinions about the American military's role in the modern world. I'm merely mocking the setup they wrote with some threat that's supposedly stronger than the whole world, but they're still not allowed to send in actual soldiers for some reason, forcing them to send in one horny, aging alcoholic to destroy the evil lair by single-handedly slapping a convenient self-destruct button.
I think we just got buzzed.
But No Time to Die has at least enough time to sort of explain why the military is stuck finger blasting each other instead of virus boats, and the answer is, well, other non-British countries are asking questions. Well, you have to wrap this up in the next few minutes then. You can't possibly reveal to other countries what you're doing. Or how about you do reveal to other countries what you're doing? Maybe not the virus originally being created by MI6 part, but the we've got a terrorist threat and we're addressing it part. Sure, no nation is backing up the villain here, and no country owns this part of the ocean, so you're not infringing on anyone's sovereignty. Are you afraid these countries are gonna wanna slip in and steal the superweapon for themselves? It's not even useful DNA-targeted tech anymore. It's a virus that could kill billions. No country wants that. And let's see, which are these countries anyway that are asking the questions?
If we launch, the Russians, the Japanese, and even the Americans will want answers.
The Americans? You were collaborating with the CIA on this very mission earlier in the movie. Are you suggesting the CIA was working on something they kept secret from even the military? Oh, actually, that checks out. Never mind.
I'm going to tell you a story about a man. His name was
John C.
Whatever, the video's over. Leave me to my land.